It's the Ambiguously Blind podcast with your host, a guy that's great at hearing, but terrible at listening, John Grimes.
Hey, and welcome back to the Ambiguously Blind studio. We're here with the series of question and answers that we've been doing. This is number 3 in the series with my co-host, the incredible Erin. Greetings, Erin.
Hey.
Nice. Glad to have you back in the studio. You've been doing a fine job of curating these questions and moderating the discussion. I've gotten some interesting feedback from some people that have been listening, apparently. So these are the highest rated podcast episodes we've done thus far. So I attribute all that to you.
Glad I could help.
Yeah. Me too.
It's been fun.
I think so too. Yeah.
I said interesting comments. That's interesting. Good? Bad?
Yeah, I won't get into the details, but they've generally been good, yes.
You've had bad? You haven't had any
We won't get into the details. They've been generally good. Who could say anything? Most of the details that are bad are about your humble correspondent right here. And how nasally he sounds, or just not interesting. They're more interested in you and Erin.
I doubt that.
No, that's correct. They're more interested in Erin than John. But this is John's podcast, so you're stuck with John. But you might have Erin along with the ride for the foreseeable future. I don't know. We're doing pretty well with this.
Yeah.
The last time we stopped, we had a question. Well, maybe we should back up a little bit. How did we end the previous episode on this?
We were talking about basically you telling me your story of how you got sick when we were dating, and then me just giving some of my feedback on that and how I think it's an amazing, miraculous story.
Where were we in the dating process when we left off? Were we married yet?
No. In our last podcast?
Yeah.
No. We were not married. We were newly dating. When you told me that, I think we had been out on 3 or 4 dates maybe. I hadn't asked any questions about it. I was kind of waiting for you to bring it up because we were newly dating, so I didn't know.
Yeah, I kind of feel like a lot of people are that way, or are maybe nervous or apprehensive to ask questions about that type of stuff with me. And just to set the record clear, you shouldn't feel that way. But I understand why most people do. And I want to say that, did that conversation happen at another Mexican restaurant?
Abuelos.
Yes, Abuelos.
Abuelos.
Grandpa's.
Yeah. It's
Yeah.
a good restaurant.
Yeah, it is a good restaurant. Sour cream chicken enchiladas are pretty good there.
Oh, he's got a salad. I forget what the name of the salad was, but it was delicious.
Yeah, it's a pretty good place.
But yeah, it happened there.
I remember that, yes. That was a good discussion.
Yeah. Yeah, I think I was more, not fearful, but I didn't want you to think that your vision loss was something that like made me maybe nervous isn't the right thing, but was like an issue for me, I guess. Maybe that's why I was kind of...
Yeah, that's a valid...
Because it was not, obviously, but...
It's a valid perspective, but it would be, especially in a relationship, it would be something you'd want to talk about, which is why I brought it up.
Yeah, but we were not... our dating... when I say our 3rd or 4th date, they were not back to back to back. There was a good, maybe a week or so that would go.
Well, sure. I think we were both seeing other people at the same time anyway.
I was not. That's a whole other discussion, apparently.
Okay, scratch that. Let's edit that part out.
Yeah. So I just, it wasn't, not that I wasn't comfortable, but I just was kind of waiting for you to.
Yeah, and I feel like people are oftentimes uncomfortable to bring up those types of things, and I wish they weren't, because there are occasions where I wish we had covered something before it becomes, like we have to, I don't know. So there are occasions where I wish we'd have talked about something before I got in a situation where I had to talk about it, kind of
Yeah.
thing. So
Well,
proactive, I guess.
And it wasn't uncomfortable for me. I didn't know how sensitive you were about talking about it.
The question that we left off with was from Jeff, who asked a few questions.
Mm-hmm.
And it was about, what was the question?
What advice would you give 17-year-old John if you only had 15 minutes? It's a good question.
Yeah, it's a great question. And I mentioned that 17-year-old John Grimes was quite a character. And
You still are quite a character.
yeah, but he was more so of a character at 17 than than it would be today.
I'd like to see old
No,
17-year-old John.
I don't think you would. Maybe ask some people that knew 17-year-old John. But the question about advice that I would give him if I only had 15 minutes, I don't think if I had 17-year-old John wouldn't sit still for 15 minutes. So I kind of think about, there's a movie, Back to the Future. You familiar with that movie?
Yes.
There was a few of them, 3 of them, I think. And then I think it's the second one. Old Biff goes back in the time machine to find young Biff and give him the sports almanac. Do you remember that at all?
Vaguely.
And I kind of think of myself as Biff. And if an old guy is coming back and telling me, things to do or not do, I would. Young Biff is like, just get out of here. And the line, which is, kind of a funny thing, he says, make like a tree and get out of here, is what young Biff says. But he's got it wrong, because the saying is, make like a tree and leave, But old Biff he's like, man, get it right. It's make like a tree. Anyway, so I feel like I would be like young Biff, where I would not give old John the time of day or have anything to do with him. But what I would try to probably say would be something along the lines of, if I had a sports almanac, that'd be wonderful, because then money would really be no issue. But assuming that's not the case, and it's not a movie, probably something along the lines of, just have fun, because you never know when things are gonna change. And don't be afraid to stick your neck out there and do something that may make you a little uncomfortable. Just go for it. Just do it. Would probably be the gist of the 30 seconds that I would have with 17-year-old John before he had nothing to do with me.
You'd strap him to a chair.
No, it wouldn't work either. Especially in today's age.
Yeah.
Sent to prison for that.
Sued.
So I'll also flip the question back on you. What would you tell 17-year-old Erin?
Gosh. I think I would tell myself to be more confident. Be confident in who you are. kind of like you said, just stick your neck out and don't be afraid to try things. Get out of your comfort zone. I don't know. That's a tough one. I feel like I didn't have a lot of life experiences. I don't know how many 17-year-olds do, but
No, I was the same way. That's something that I think is true for me too. I had really no adversity in my life whatsoever. I mean, my adversity was very trivial.
right,
So my life experience was, although it seemed to me at the time just everything was great at 17, but the adversity that I had was very trivial, nothing that would matter at all. So I didn't, not that I needed to know what was coming, but I just didn't know what laid ahead in life. I mean, nobody does, of course, but
right,
I didn't have a track record of dealing with adversity,
right,
and that definitely makes people stronger.
right.
The earlier, not that I wish adversity on anybody, of course, but that certainly is a character building thing that happens, and for some people it happens earlier, some people it happens later.
Right. Yeah, I'd say just get out of my comfort zone. And I was always afraid to tell people no. I was always like, sure, I'd always say yes to everything. It's okay to say no. And then just when it came to dating, I kind of look back on some relationships and I just was taken advantage of, and I was not a priority. I made excuses for them. So as a teenage girl, and then looking back at it now that I'm 41, I would not have been afraid to tell them what was on my mind and just, respect myself more when it came to those kind of things. Would not have stayed in the relationship as long as I had because I was afraid to, say anything or, just give my opinion on things. And it should not be that way. You should be able to say what you want to say and speak your opinion and not be afraid of what that person is going to say. Or so I would change that.
I think I would probably also, I just thought of this, I'd say don't be afraid to date an Aggie.
We're good people.
That's true, but I don't know that I understood that back at that time.
At the time. Yeah, just, being a mom now, and I want to raise strong, independent children. So, and I got better as relationships went on. I had a saying. My dad would always say, "Did you kick that one to the curb?" Oh, yeah. I sure did. So I got better not that I dated a lot, but, I gave them the benefit of the doubt too much and made up excuses. Well, he's working late or, and that's just not the way that it is, because that's not how it was with you. You made me a priority from the very beginning and let me know that I was important, and there were no excuses. It was just easy, where the other relationships were not easy at all.
How many times did your dad ask if you'd kick me to the curb?
I think they very quickly realized that our relationship was very different than any other relationship that I'd been in. Again, not that there had been many, but there had been enough to, I wasn't complaining. I wasn't upset. I wasn't.
Are you sure?
They were probably thinking, oh, she's making excuses for this person. Ugh. They were probably hoping that I'd kicked them to the curb, but not you, everybody else. But I think just like I did. I realized very quickly that you were different from everybody else. So, and I think, you're talking about adversity and, learning from those experiences. You learn from every experience. And those relationships for me, I very quickly learned what I wanted in a relationship, in a person, and what I didn't. So I took away from those experiences, and it led me to you.
You got it right. I am different. That
That's
is
for sure.
for sure.
Oh, man.
All right. Well, let's move on now to more questions. What do you got? What else you got?
Okay, this goes back to college. Did you ever want to give up on college? This is from your friend Kelly. When you got back to being healthy, did you think it would be too hard to catch up and continue?
I really didn't. And I don't remember much thought about that. And that is a testament to my family, mostly my parents, who I don't know. No, I didn't ever feel like to backtrack a little bit. I left school in February of night of my sophomore year, so almost the middle part of the spring semester. And even with that, I was probably taking 4 or 5 classes, and I had unenrolled from all of them except one. I think it was political science, and I did political science from home, and with my mom. The it was quite an experience. I remember not being real excited about those times of doing schoolwork, but I finished that class that spring. That was the only one that I completed, and remarkably, I passed. What was going on was it was a completely new way of learning. I think I was kind of an audible learner to begin with, just from what I can remember. I've always been much more in tune to hearing, I think. And I would absorb more listening to things than seeing them. And that's not to say I didn't absorb things by sight, but I felt like the transition was not as dramatic as as maybe one may think it would be. And I don't know, I wasn't ever in a situation where I didn't think I could do it. I questioned how I was going to do it lots of times, but I always knew that I could do what I was trying to do, mostly as it pertains to schoolwork and stuff at this time. So my parents kept me moving, kept me on a pretty steady pace moving forward. There were setbacks, lots of them, and during that time period, health-wise and just with schooling and logistics and all manner of different things that happened. But between the months of March and August of that year, I went into a cocoon and came out as a as a butterfly, I guess. I don't
Now,
to return to school in August.
So when you went back, you said your parents kept you on pace. Was that from afar, or did they drop you off and stay for a few weeks, or did they just drop you off and go?
No, they pretty much dropped me off and go. When I said a pace, I mean with most of that was with physical rehabilitation and stuff, because there was quite a bit of that happened. I think we've talked about it maybe a little bit before, but from a physical standpoint, I was a mess. Physically, I was having trouble walking and talking and swallowing, and cognitively I was okay, but physically I had a lot of work to do. So the great thing is that I was 19 at the time. So the 19-year-old body adjusts much quicker than later in life. But there was I did a lot of physical therapy. I did that. I don't remember exactly, but at least 3 to 5 days a week, where I was going to a outpatient location and doing stuff like just riding treadmills and walking on balance beams and doing just tasks and things for mostly a lot of motor skills, but also hand-eye coordination and things like that. So when I say they kept me on pace, there were definitely times where I did not want to go to that, and it was tiring and overwhelming and exhausting and just not, nothing that I really had ever encountered. So there were lots of opportunities for me to second guess that type of treatment and what I was actually doing, but they kept me pretty well in line and I had my eye was on the ball the whole time.
Well, they had to, because that was a tough situation to be in. So if they weren't there helping you and making you go, then that's not. They wanted you back on your feet as soon as possible.
Sure, yeah,
because they knew that there were going to be some challenges with your vision loss, so they wanted to get you as healthy and moving as soon as possible. Yeah,
and as a parent, I understand that quite a bit more
right
now than I did it, obviously at the time even, but it was definitely exactly what I needed. And it's not like they were drill sergeants and it was a boot camp kind of thing. It wasn't like that at all, but it was, there were times where I was done with stuff. I just didn't want to do things, and I was tired, and I was frustrated with why I'm wearing. I can remember one time in particular where I was going to this rehab place, and I was working on walking, which is something we learn when we're 12 months old. And I was wearing this thing. It's called a gait belt.
Yeah,
and it's a belt goes around the waist, and there's somebody, I was using it in the hospital. They would walk with me, and somebody would stand on each side of me and hold the belt so I didn't fall over. And that was, crazy. I don't know why. I understood why it had to happen, but I didn't know. It seemed foolish to me that I was doing this. And after I got in my walking down, I can remember being at rehab this one particular day, and the therapist said, "We're going to go outside, and we're going to walk in the grass." We've been walking on carpet, sidewalks, solid surfaces, but now we're going to walk in the grass. And I said, "Okay, yeah, whatever. That's fine. No big deal." And I remember walking on from the sidewalk into the grass outside of this facility, and I took about 2 or 3 steps, and I was on my face.
Oh.
Because the ground is not even everywhere you go, And so I had some balance issues internally with just balance, and that was the exercise, was walking on uneven surfaces. And I was very confident in my abilities to, I was like, okay, we'll do this, knock this off and cross it off the list. But it took a little while to work on that. And so at age 19, who was 2 months ago, 10 feet tall and bulletproof, this was something that would be completely ridiculous to even consider that this would be an issue. So I remember that clearly, that episode.
Yeah.
So it was things like that where I would have those kind of things happen, and I'd get extremely frustrated.
Right.
Is probably the word.
Yeah. I think anyone would. Like you said, you were 2 months ago running around and soccer and just a normal 19-year-old. And
that's really even before you throw the vision stuff in. This was just mostly physical rehabilitation.
right.
So the vision stuff was another layer on top of that. And I don't know. I never really felt like, it's not that I didn't want to be around my family or anything, but I just wanted to get back to where I was.
Right.
I guess is probably the biggest thing.
Yeah.
So I wanted to get back to school. I wanted to get back with my friends. I wanted to get back in that groove again. But there were so many elements of life that were going to be a lot different that I really needed to get squared away before I could do that. So when I went back in August of that year, so it was roughly, well, it was less than 6 months from, or about 6 months from the actual beginning of the illness to the time I was back in school. That was my objective, was to get back.
Yeah. Well, sure that kept you going, motivated. And 6 months with what you went through. I mean, I know it was not a short time for you or your parents.
No, because there was a really lot of things that happened, and when I got back to school, I was in a new living environment as well. So adjusting to different living, I had 2 roommates before and after, but one of them was a different person. So just adjusting to different people, and all of it was a good environment for me to be in.
Mm-hmm.
But at the I wasn't driving,
Right.
so that was quite a bit different, and we were living we were living driving distance from school, not walking distance. So there was just a lot of getting to understand how that was. My roommates were great with that, but it was just understanding the timing and the logistics of me moving and where I was going and where I needed to be, and actually finding the classrooms, and I got to know my professors a lot better.
Yeah.
I had to basically meet with all of them up front to begin with to let them know what my situation was. And prior to that, I probably hadn't had very few interactions with the actual professors. Just whatever a normal student would have. So
Mm-hmm.
I got to know the teachers much, much better.
Yeah.
The first fall semester I went back, I think I probably enrolled in 4 classes, and one of them was English, which I remember not particularly being a good fit for me, because it was a lot of reading, and I was still adapting to how I was going to read, and I was learning a lot of adaptive technology, which I had done before I went back to school, software and computers and things that had been done. One of the things that I had to relearn was typing. I've always been really good on the computer, but prior to vision loss, when it came to typing, I used kind of the hunt and peck method. If
Really?
anybody remembers that.
Really?
Yeah, I didn't have it. This may sound familiar to you, but a lot of times in school, I didn't have enough time to do what the teachers were asking. I just kind of rushed through things. And I even took keyboarding class in high school.
I think it's funny you married a teacher.
And in keyboarding class, I would look at the keys. I mean, I don't know. I just did. And so now put me in a situation where, again, I like computers. I'm good on computers. I excel in all of the computer classes I took in high school. I was very good. But I looked at the keys when I typed. And I don't know, maybe most people did. Maybe most people didn't. But now I'm in a situation where I'm really good with computers, but now I can't see what I'm typing because I relied on vision for keys. And so that summer where I was home, that's one of the things that happened was I took a keyboarding class. And I can remember when I was there, they had a cardboard
Cover.
thing that they wanted to put over my keys. I was like,
You don't need to.
You don't need to. It doesn't matter. And so, but I learned it very quickly. I mean, I knew the keys anyway, but I never knew them like that because I needed to. So it came naturally, but that was one of the things that I had to do that summer was learn the keys. And I did, and I obviously still do. So when I can remember sitting in the English class, and I had a tremendous amount of anxiety. Tremendous.
Yeah. Gosh, I can't even
amount
imagine.
of anxiety being in the classes.
Yeah.
And just trying to understand how it was going to work. Not a question of this isn't going to work. I was always under the premise of this will work, but I got to figure out. I need to understand how this is going to work. So I can remember sitting in the English class being extremely apprehensive about really anything and trying to figure out there was a list of books and things, and this was really before there were books on tape and things like that, but this is way before any kind of digital books. So there were some resources available that I was exploring and just getting to know with some organizations that I was becoming familiar with, of which the primary was the Texas Commission for the Blind. It's changed its name a few times since then, but that's what it was called back in those days. And so they had programs available where things could be recorded or put in Braille, or other adaptive measures could be done. But at the time where I'm basically thrust back into school, I wasn't really prepared for that. So I ended up dropping the English class, and I think I took I think I ended up with 2 or 3 credits, 2 or 3 classes that fall semester.
Yeah. 4 is a lot.
And well, the 4 is normal though. I mean, 12
Right.
hours, 4 classes.
Right, but under your circumstances, going back, that's a lot.
Yeah. It in retrospect it was, and I think the following spring semester, I think I did the same thing. I took maybe 2 or 3 I think I didn't drop any classes. I think I was better equipped to know what I could handle. So I think I took 2 or 3 classes that spring semester. So during the spring, fall, and following spring, so about a year and a half of college or school life, I want to say I probably finished 5 classes. So for a total of about 15 hours, which normally, a normal student would take 12 hours
12
every
to
semester.
15,
So you
yeah.
do 24 or so per year without summer school. And so during that year and a half period, I think I want to say I completed about 15 hours. And so that set me back, of course, in my timing of school. And after the spring semester of that following year is when I really started getting into a rhythm and I finished school in a total of 5 years with one summer semester. So like 5 years in the first session of that summer school. So what should have taken 4 took me just a smidge over 5. But this would be like probably my last 2 semesters. I was taking 18 hours or so to get caught up on all that stuff. But I did, and I just did it. I can't tell you how. It just happened. Had a lot of help, a lot of the professors were great. I had a lot of good friends. The Texas Commission for the Blind assisted in lots of ways with converting text to speech and with software. and even helping me get some of my friends to assist me with reading things, and kind of like with tutors, and not really tutors as much as just kind of, I mean, I had to adjust to all kinds of different ways of doing things, but all my tests going forward were all done. Like, I didn't take my tests with the class, because you walk in, you get your Scantron or whatever, and you take your test, or you write the answers or whatever. So all my tests were done in a testing facility, and they were all done with an orator. So they were all read to me. Yeah. So it was a unique thing working in that type of an environment, where it's kind of like where you might look at a question on your test, and you, just by sitting there, you may read the question a few times to understand it.
Right.
And you may look at the answers, but for somebody that's not looking at the question or the answers, it seems kind of weird to ask somebody, another human, say, okay, repeat that question again. Repeat that question again. What are the answers? Tell me what the choices are. What was B? What was C? So it was, and the person that was doing that was used to that type of thing too. So I don't think it was a major thing for them, but for me, it was an adjustment to getting used to testing or learning in that type of environment. So I've gotten probably way off track from the question. It was something about college, and what was the question? How far off am I?
Not off. No, not at all. Did you ever want to give up on college? When you got back to being healthy, did you think it would be too hard to catch up?
Yeah, I never really wanted to give up, because it was something I wanted to do and wanted to complete and accomplish. So it certainly was a tremendous amount different than anything I had been accustomed to. But I feel like the thing that was in my favor was I was primarily learned through listening. So I think that made it easier for me to rely on that as my primary source. So that seemed to make it easier. But no, I mean, I'm sure I wanted to give up. I'm sure there were times where things were very frustrating and tough, because I know that happened, but I seem to block those out of my memory, and just try to remember the good things. So we made it. And I say we because it was a team effort with me, my family, all the professors, the test orators, and the counselors, and my friends, and all the people that assisted me, because at that point it was a team effort. It wasn't just me anymore.
Right. How has your perspective on life changed since your loss of vision? From your friend Rob.
That's a good question. Perspective on life changed. Well, I don't know if I can identify with vision loss, because as we age, life perspectives change in general. It certainly made me think about things from a different or abnormal point of view. It's not normal. So I tend to look at things probably from a different angle. And I say look kind of in a figurative sense, I guess, when I say look at things. So I think it's made me slow down and appreciate the subtleties of things, and some nuance and differences about how things operate and how things should and can operate, and look at more of the big picture kind of things. As it pertains to vision loss, that's kind of the answer. But as it just pertains to life and aging, and to go through an experience where life could be over in an instant. So in that regard, it's made lots of differences. one of the things that I think about recently is the last time I did something, whatever that may be. I tend to recently be thinking about those types of things, like the last time I was someplace, wherever that place is. You don't really think about in the moment, this might be the last time I'm ever
Right.
at this particular place, and for whatever reason it's not. So I mean, I can remember hugging my grandfather for the last time, and didn't think that would be the last time that
Yeah.
ever happened.
Yeah.
So things like that, where you're in a moment that seems relatively common or normal,
Right.
but after a period of time passes, you realize that wasn't normal. That was the last time I just did whatever that was. And I think with age, that's gotten more relevant to me, but with the vision loss and the understanding of how quickly something can change with
Right.
the illness that happened with me, I think I have given the last time a lot more consideration than maybe most.
Yeah. And I think as you get older, I don't know, you appreciate those moments more. I mean, even the little moments. I mean, now that we're parents, I'm super sensitive to those kinds of things of never know when life is going to change. And I remember, like you just said, hugging your grandfather. I remember hugging Nana the last time and thinking the same thing, that this could be the last time that I hug her and see her. So as you get older, yeah, hopefully your perspectives change on things. You appreciate even little things. I say that to your dad all the time because he jokes around, and I'm like, it's the little things, Doug.
What does he say?
Sure is. He agrees. Because it is. I mean, it's the little things. I
Well,
think he was fixing something in the house. And I was like, oh my gosh. It's just those little things that just, just like, oh, I appreciate that so much.
Yeah, he would know. He's older than us, so he would know better. I would think with age, you understand that better.
Right. Well, like you said, when you're younger, you just don't think about those things. You live in the moment, and you think you're going to wake up the next day, and
you're going to wake up the next day, and everything
that's true.
You're just another day, and
everything's going to be normal, and and then as you get older, you just, especially, even just when I was single and I was an adult in my late 20s or 30s, it was just me. I had to worry about me, and that was it. And to me, that's not a big deal. But the second that you and I got married, it's not just me anymore that I'm worrying about or taking care of. It's this other person that I love and is now a part of my life. And, it just, your life changes. And then if you get married and then you have kids, and having kids is just, oh my gosh, changes everything.
Yeah, I don't know that I recommend that. Having children, but that's a separate podcast all by itself. Isn't there a question about something about our wedding? Wasn't there a question about that we got?
Yes, from my friend Amanda.
While we're on the topic of wedding, what was that question?
She says she's just curious about this. She said, since I was in your wedding, what was that moment like for you when your bride walked down the aisle?
She was in our wedding. I remember that. And I suppose I'm supposed to come up with some really good synopsis here of what this moment was like. It was a surreal moment without question. And it was, probably the best day up to that point in my life, probably the most exciting and best day of my life. We've had some things happen since that would, rival that day, I think. You would agree with that. So,
Yeah.
All that aside, yeah, it was pretty incredible. But I assume she's asking from the visual perspective of that. And what was, I think, really interesting for me, or what really was really cool for me, was I had once again, a family member that was standing directly next to me at this wedding, and my brother Brad, my little brother Brad, that is, because my big brother Brad was there too. But as the doors fly open and you and your dad start to make your way down the aisle, my brother is giving me a step-by-step or play-by-play account of everything that's happening, and the look on your face and the tears in your dad's eyes and in your eyes, of course, too.
She's crying.
Yeah.
She's still crying.
I can't tell if those are happy or sad tears, but she's crying.
Oh, she's still crying.
She looks incredible. She's beautiful. This is awesome. So, I was getting, he's standing next to me giving me all those details. So that certainly made it.
Now, had y'all planned that,
No.
or did he just start? See, that's the cool thing. Brad's so good.
Yeah, he's good. So it really was the fact that my vision was what it was, didn't, that helped fill in a lot of the details of things that I wasn't picking up on necessarily until you were within, a few feet of me.
Yeah.
But I was waiting for him to say, she turned around.
She's running. You knew that wouldn't happen.
I don't know.
Oh my gosh.
That was certainly in the back of my mind. So.
Oh my gosh. No, it was not.
But you didn't run back down the aisle, so I was relieved to know that. And the wedding went off without a hitch for the most part.
For the most part?
I mean, we almost, forgot the ring or miss
with this wing.
With this wing ivy wed.
You did say that.
I did. And of course the minister had a hard time finding the ring. We had the ring, but I think didn't he have a hard time?
Oh, he gave me the wrong. Are you the wrong? Yeah, he gave one of us the wrong.
I think he gave me my ring to put on you.
to put on my finger, and we were both like, I forgot about that. Yeah.
But that was pretty minor.
Those are minor things, yeah.
Big picture, so.
But you joke about me running out of the church. Am
I joking?
I knew it 3 months that I was going to marry you.
3 months.
I never said that. And I remember my brother telling me that about when he was dating my sister-in-law, now sister-in-law. I remember him telling me, he may not want me saying this either, but I remember him calling me and saying that he was going to marry her. Like, y'all been dating for 3 months. You don't know that. And then it's like, yeah, I do. You just, and And then I was like, no, you don't. Because I was,
You didn't know at that time.
I didn't know.
And as far as he knows, just tell him we'll take this out of the recording.
But you do know. I knew it 3 months. And I remember my dad, I was visiting them in San Antonio. And
he was asking if you'd kicked me to the curb yet.
No. He and I had gone somewhere, run some errands, and we're on our way back to the house. And he said, so you and John are pretty serious. Seems like things are going well. And I'm driving. I guess we were in my car. And I just look over at him and I said, yeah, I'm going to marry him. And the look on his face was one of those just priceless moments. He's like, okay. In his mind, he's probably thinking, yeah,
She's crazy.
no, she probably will. She probably isn't going to marry him because she's never, ever said that about anyone before. That was the first time I'd ever said that. And he was probably thinking, yeah, she's going to marry him.
And you say this was about 3 months?
That conversation, no, was probably later. I knew at 3 months that
Mhm.
I was going to marry you. I don't think I divulged that information to anyone. I think I kept that to myself.
How long did we date?
Oh, gosh. We started dating in
Like, it was in June or so.
June or July
we got
of
married.
2009. And then we were married in October of 2011. But we were engaged, I think, for 8 months. I think around. I used to know that. And then
Yeah, too many things have happened.
too much stuff.
I do
has
remember
happened.
the engagement.
That was a really good engagement.
It's fun.
That was a lot of fun. Yeah, I had no clue. No clue. I was hoping. Because I had a friend, all I could think about was one of my close friends who was also in the wedding. She got engaged the same weekend that we did.
Yeah,
And
she did.
I knew that. She did not. But I knew that that was happening. And I kept talking about, Catherine's getting engaged this weekend.
How exciting is that?
Oh my gosh, I'm so happy for her. That's all I was thinking about. Well, not all I was thinking about, but that's
So maybe that was a good cover.
that's a big moment.
Yeah.
And little did I know.
You were getting engaged that weekend. Actually, before her.
Before her. Yeah. Yep. Fun times. So no, I was not going to run. You're stuck with me.
And to fill in just a little bit more detail, it was on a ice rink downtown.
Chicago. Yep. That was our first trip together as a couple to Chicago. And we had a great time. We were there with your best friend, Chris.
It was cold,
It was so cold.
but I think you like that.
I love the cold. Yeah.
I don't.
I'm the only one in my family from Texas. So everyone else is from up north.
They're done with it.
They're done with
They've had
it.
enough of
And
it.
I love it. So, yeah, it was such a fun trip. It just, I don't know. It's a great time. And I think we went back. Was it the second time we went back? Did we get engaged or had we gone another time? I think it was our second trip to Chicago.
Trying to remember. Yeah, it was our.
Yeah, it was our second trip. But again, I thought Chris was going to be there. It was supposed to be another one of those trips.
Well, we did have to stretch a few things here and there to
Cause then,
make it
yeah.
a surprise.
Because then after it happened and we got engaged, I was like, oh, and Chris is coming and we get to tell him. And you're like, no, Chris isn't coming. I was like, oh, so he was in on it too.
Yeah, it was just you and me. I didn't want to get anybody else really involved in that. I didn't feel like that was necessary.
Oh, it's funny.
Yeah, but that was fun.
It was a lot of fun. Man, you did very well with that. No clue that was happening. And how you did it too. Because we were going ice skating. And the jokester that you are. We're out on the rink skating. And you fall.
Which is very plausible.
Which
I'm not a very good ice skater.
I'm thinking, yeah. I mean, I fall too. But you fell.
Not as much as me.
So I was, when I looked down, you were on your knee and my heart stopped for a second. It skipped a beat or two.
Why?
Because I thought you were proposing. And then you say, oh, my shoelace came untied. Or my shoestrings came untied. And I was like, oh, okay. So I just look off, because I'm like, I'm trying to remain cool and not show what I'm thinking. And then my heart kind of sank when you said, oh, I'm just tying my laces. So I'm just off looking around at everyone else skating. And then I finally looked back at you because I guess I thought you were taking a while. And you were there with holding the ring.
Voila, the ring appeared.
Voila, yeah.
And you didn't answer me.
Because I had to think about it because I was so happy. I was crying. I couldn't speak.
Well, yes, but, to bring this all back to the ambiguously blind topic, I didn't necessarily know that. I mean, you could have been crying because I knew you were crying, but you could have been crying as like,
how am I
what have I just gotten myself into?
How am I going to tell him? Yeah.
So if I recall correctly, we were in the center of the rink, and we moved to the railing to the side.
Yeah.
And when we got there, I asked again.
You're like, you haven't answered me.
I just wanted to be clear what the answer was, to know how the rest of the day was going to go.
Oh my gosh. And then I finally said yes. And then I remembered that there was it Girl Scouts?
Yes.
There was a troop of Girl Scouts. And, little, if they were teenagers, they were like 13, and younger. And so they saw that happen, and they skated over and were like, we saw this happen. Congratulations. So funny.
Yep. And the scoutmaster or the person in charge took our picture.
He did.
She did.
She did?
Yeah.
You got a good memory. I just remembered that it was that.
But there were other people that also witnessed it, and it was relatively busy, the rink that day.
Yeah.
I don't know. There was, I would guess, at least 50 people ice skating. And I don't know.
Yeah.
And there were a few people that came up and
congratulated
us. Yeah. And then the woman from the Scout Brownies or Girl Scouts or whatever it was, took our picture. Yeah. We should post, we'll tweet that picture. We'll tweet that. Along with the picture with the Carrot Top wig and the Jackie Moon headband. That should be on the Twitter too.
Alrighty.
And I'm sure the next time we do this will be as riveting as this one has been. We have, I think, a lot more questions still to go, so there should be no foreseeable end for this particular series of questions and answers. So I hope if there's anybody that has any additional questions, you can once again email me, John, at amblind.com, John at amblind.com.
Thanks for spending time with the Ambiguously Blind podcast. Please rate and write a review wherever you subscribe. And, for a complete transcript of this episode, connect and share with us at ambiguouslyblind.com.